there you can see headlining Ukraine, and the pro-Russian activists are on the offensive. And Ukraine, Kiev responding to that. Now, of course, that paper, Le Figaro, along with lots of the press in France, is headlining on this. And Le Figaro's comment in its editorial is very striking, that there is a threat right now of a war like the one we saw in the Balkans when Yugoslavia broke up a couple of decades ago. Remember, this is the largest country in Europe, between the European Union and Russia. So a warning there from Le Figaro.
Catherine Delacroix, they're leading on this as well with rather a different headline, escalation, they're saying.
Absolutely. Ukraine escalade, and Lacroix is asking whether this is just a way now, the events over the weekend, whether it's simply a way for Moscow to generate pressure ahead of a diplomatic meeting in Geneva on Thursday. Lacroix is saying in its editorial that Ukraine has counted on Europe, on the European Union, and the European Union must not disappoint. I want to go over to the Freebie paper, 20 minutes. The headline there is Ukraine partition is at stake. So the whole question of the breakup of the country is a priority. So across the board in the French press, we've got concern, obviously, about the spectre of this conflict in Ukraine.
Now, there is one other top story for a couple of the major papers here in France. Le Parisien, aujourd'hui en France. They're leading instead on a major crisis here in Europe, aren't they?
Well, this is, again, a couple of decades ago. We can go there. Vache folle, un scandale sans coupable. So vache folle, what's that? That's the mad cow crisis, isn't it? If you remember that, what was big scare, especially for the UK, a couple of decades ago. Now, the headline, why is there a headline for Aujourd'hui en France? Well, because in France, a French court will declare that there is no party to blame as such. That is an opportunity to have a review of what's happened since. There was lots of scaremongering at the time, wasn't there, about how many, thousands or even tens of thousands of people who would die. The editorial points out that, yes, this was a health scare bomb threat in a way, an attentat anonyme. The result is that no party is to blame. You can't point the finger at any particular organization. 27 people have died of Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease in France since that crisis. So not at all the huge numbers we were expecting. Now let's go to Libe, which has this headline today: take drugs in moderation. Stuart, I was absolutely
at this
shocked
time of
by
day.
That. Well, not leading on Ukraine, and then arguing that you should in fact take a bit of the weed.
Okay.
So, what is this about? Libe is actually saying that looking at a survey of drug use in France, and it's saying that what is needed now is actually not this whole argument of a whole drug use is anathema, we shouldn't talk about it. Instead, there should be a debate and there should be a code of conduct which is sort of encourages people to be able to take drugs in moderation without harming themselves. It points out that there are 1.2 million cannabis users in France, and 1 in 3 people who are dependent on alcohol don't know that they are in France. So that is a take for Libe this Monday.
Okay, we're talking about drugs. Perhaps this next person we're going to talk about needs some. He's been sinking, he's sinking. Is he finally drowned? We're talking about François Hollande, aren't we?
L'Opinion, it's getting very scary. If you the front page of L'Opinion there, jusqu'où tombera-t-il? How far will he sink in the polls? And Stuart, he's gone down to 18% according to a survey over the weekend. He was 23% of favourable survey in March. So that's a big sink. And what's happened is that he's had a reshuffle. He's appointed Valls as Prime Minister. That doesn't seem to be doing him any good. Who's smiling? Let's have a look at this guy. We know him well. Nicolas Sarkozy is in Le Parisien. Being very happy, saying, hey, I speak out about the whole phone tapping scandal concerning me, and the whole country stops to read me. And that's a dramatic contrast, isn't it, with your current leader? So he's very happy indeed, expecting a catastrophe for the socialists in the upcoming European elections, Stuart.
Which, of course, we will be covering here on France 24. Thank you very much, Nick. Nick and Stephen back during the rest of the programme, of course. More from me very, very shortly. The latest situation not in Ukraine. We'll be bringing you the latest from there. Plus, as the tension continues to mount in the east of Ukraine, today in Focus, we've a special report on both sides of the Ukraine-Russian border. Now, within the report, one of our teams is actually arrested by the Russian security services. It's coming up in Focus in the next half hour.
Beyond Business. France has seen a steep drop in manufacturing jobs, and some say it makes the country not only poorer, but also less secure. In Beyond Business, we look at the link between manufacturing and national security, comparing France to the United States.
Beyond Business, en France 24, en France24.com.